Mama, you won't believe it. When I got to the store, I saw a man who slipped and fell. I helped him up, oh, and he was so grateful that he insisted on buying our groceries and giving me a lift home. He even gave me some extra money, sef. Ngozi frowned. Worry etched on her face. In the beautiful town of Nebo, located in the southeastern part of Nigeria, lived a girl named Nelo. Nelo was 12 years old and lived with her mother Ngozi. Ngozi was a dedicated teacher at the local primary school and was well loved by her students and respected by everyone in the town. Every morning, Ngozi would walk Nelo to school before heading to her own classroom to teach. Nelo was a bright and cheerful girl. She loved to read and was always curious about the world around her. She had many friends at school and was always ready to help anyone in need. Every day after school, she would rush home to tell her mother about all the interesting things she had learned. One day, as they walked to school, Nilo asked, Mama, why don't I have a father like my friends do? Ngozi's heart ached at the question. She looked at her daughter and smiled gently. Nelo, my dear, sometimes life doesn't go the way we plan, but we have each other, and that's what matters the most. Nelo nodded, but she couldn't help feeling a little sad. She didn't want to push her mother for more information, knowing it might make her sad too. So she kept her questions to herself and tried to focus on the positives. That evening, after dinner, Ngozi went to her room to fold the laundry, and she carefully folded each piece of clothing. Her mind wandered back to the past. Memories of David filled her thoughts. She remembered how they had met, how they had fallen in love, and how everything had changed so quickly. David had been a handsome young man from a wealthy family. They had met by chance one day when Ngozi was attending lessons to prepare for her exams. They had bumped into each other, and from that moment, they became close friends. Their friendship soon blossomed into love. Ngozi sighed and she folded one of Nelo's dresses. She remembered the day she found out she was pregnant. She had been so scared, but also excited to share the news with David. She had gone to his house, her heart pounding with anticipation. But when she arrived, it was David's mother who answered the door. Good afternoon, Ma, Ngozi had said politely, trying to hide her nervousness. I need to speak to David. David's mother had frowned. David is not here. And even if he was, I wouldn't let you see him. I know your type. You are just trying to trap him with a baby. Ngozi had been shocked by the harsh words. But it's not like that. We love each other. David's mother had stepped closer, her voice low and threatening. If you ever come near my son again, I will make sure you regret it. Now leave and never you come back. Ngozi had been terrified. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want to cause any trouble for David or for herself. So she had left and never returned. As Ngozi folded the last piece of laundry, she wondered if David had ever looked for her. Did he even know that she had been pregnant? Did he know about Nelo? She had no idea where he was or what had become of him after their separation. All she knew was that she had to keep going for Nelo's sake. Nelo knocked on the door, breaking Ngozi's thoughts. Mama, can you help me with my homework? Ngozi smiled, pushing the memories aside. Of course, my dear, let's go. As they sat down to work on the homework, Nilu couldn't help but notice the sadness in her mother's eyes. She wanted to ask more about her father, but she didn't want to make her mother sadder. Instead, she focused on her homework, hoping that one day they would both find the answers they were looking for. Life in Nebo continued as usual. Ngozi and Nelo faced each day with hope and determination, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any challenge. And maybe, just maybe, one day, they would find the answers to their questions and be a complete family once again. Men often made advances at Ngozi, but she always refused to accept any of them. She had dedicated her life to raising Nelo and focused on her teaching job. One of the men who admired her was Paul, a fellow teacher at the same school. Paul was a kind and gentle man who cared deeply for Ngozi. One afternoon, after school had ended, Paul approached Ngozi as she was gathering her things. "Hello, Ngozi." Paul greeted with a warm smile. "How was your day?" "Hello, Paul. It was busy but good." Ngozi replied politely. Paul hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "Ngozi, I was wondering if you would like to have dinner with me sometime. I really enjoy our conversations and would like to get to know you better." Ngozi looked at him kindly but firmly. "Paul, you are a wonderful person and I appreciate your kindness, but I am not ready for a relationship. My focus is on Nelo and my work." Paul nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. "I understand, Ngozi. If you ever change your mind, I will be here." Ngozi smiled and thanked him, then walked home with Nelu. She appreciated Paul's understanding, but knew in her heart that she wasn't ready to open herself up to anyone else. Another man who showed interest in Ngozi was Kelechi, who worked at the local government office. Kelechi was charming and always made an effort to talk to Ngozi whenever they crossed paths. One day, as Ngozi was walking home from the market, Kelechi approached her with a big smile. "Good afternoon, Ngozi. How are you today?" "Good afternoon, Kelechi. I'm fine, thank you," Ngozi replied, returning the smile. Kelechi looked a bit nervous but continued. "Ngozi, I was wondering if you would like to join me for a cup of coffee sometime. I enjoy our conversations and would love to spend more time with you." Ngozi shook her head gently. "Thank you, Kelechi, but I am not interested in dating right now. My focus is on my daughter and my work." Kelechi looked disappointed but tried to hide it. "I understand, Ngozi. If you ever change your mind, please let me know." Ngozi thanked him and continued her walk home, feeling grateful for his understanding but still firm in her decision. There were others too. Peter, Ifeanyi, Chike, and many more men had come her way, but she always turned them down. She wasn't ready to let anyone into her life in that way. Nelo often begged her mother to accept one of the suitors so she could have a father, but Ngozi always told her not to get involved in such matters. One evening, as they were having dinner, Nelo asked, "Mama, why don't you like any of the men who want to be with you? I would love to have a father." Ngozi sighed and looked at her daughter lovingly. "Nelo, my child, it's not about not liking them. I'm just not ready for a relationship. My focus is on you and making sure we have a good life. Please don't worry about these things. When the time is right, everything will fall into place." Nelo nodded, but she still felt a bit sad. She wanted her mother to be happy and couldn't understand why she wouldn't give any of the men a chance. Nelo would sometimes go for sleepovers at her best friend's Ada's house. They would spend time reading together, chatting, and watching TV. Ada was the only friend Ngozi approved of Nelo visiting and sleeping over with. And Ada's parents felt the same way about Nelo. One day, as Ada and Nelo sat on Ada's bed, Nelo confided in her friend, Ada, my mom keeps rejecting all the men who like her. I don't understand why. I want her to be happy and to have a father. Ada looked at her friend with understanding eyes. Maybe they are not good enough for her, Nelo. We are too young to talk about relationships anyway. Your mom knows what's best for her. Nelo sighed. It doesn't matter, Ada. My mom is very important to me, and I want her to be happy. Ada smiled and teased her friend. Are you trying to be a matchmaker, Nelo? Nelo giggled. No, I'm just an advisor. They both laughed, enjoying their time together. Ada was a kind-hearted friend, always full of love and support. She was beautiful and always knew how to make Nelo feel better. As they continued to chat, Ada said, You know, Nelo, sometimes adults have reasons for their decisions that we might not understand. Maybe your mom has a good reason for not wanting to date right now. Just trust her and support her, okay? Nelo nodded. You are right, Ada. I should trust my mom. She always knows what's best. They spent the rest of the evening playing games, reading stories, and watching their favorite shows on TV. Ada's parents always made sure the girls were well taken care of and had everything they needed for a fun sleepover. The bond between Nelo and Ada was strong. They were more than just friends, they were like sisters. They supported each other through thick and thin, always ready to lend a helping hand or a listening ear. Back at home, Ngozi continued to focus on her work and raising Nelo. She knew that one day she might be ready to open her heart again, but for now, her priority was her daughter. She wanted to give Nelo the best life possible and ensure that she grew up to be a strong, confident, and kind young woman. As the days went by, Nelo learned to accept her mother's decision. She realized that her mother's happiness was important, and if staying single made her mother happy, then she would support her. Nelo and Ngozi continued to face each day with hope and determination, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any challenge. And maybe, just maybe, one day, Ngozi would find the right person to share her life with. Until then, they would cherish the bond they had and continue to build a bright future together. The laughter and love in their home were enough to fill their hearts with joy. And Nelo knew that no matter what, she and her mother would always have each other. One sunny afternoon, Ngozi realized that they were running low on foodstuffs. She called Nelo to her side and handed her a list. Nelo, could you please go to the store and get these items? We need them for dinner tonight. Nelo nodded. Of course, Mama. I'll be back soon. As Nelo walked to the store, she thought about all the things she and her mother would cook together. She loved helping in the kitchen and learning new recipes from her mother. When she arrived at the store, she noticed a handsome man standing by the entrance. Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Suddenly, the man slipped and fell. Oh God! Nelo exclaimed, rushing to his side. Are you okay? The man looked up at her and smiled, feeling both embarrassed and grateful. I'm fine, thank you. That was quite a fall. Nelo helped him to his feet. I'm glad you are not hurt. Be careful next time, okay? He dusted himself off and chuckled. I will, thanks to you. What's your name? I'm Nelo, she replied with a bright smile. I'm here to get some foodstuffs for my mom. The man smiled warmly. Nice to meet you, Nelo. I'm David. How about I help you with your shopping and pay for your groceries to thank you for your help? Nelo shook her head quickly. Oh, no, 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 sir. You don't have to do that. My mom gave me enough money. David insisted. I want to. It's the least I can do. Come on, let's go inside. Nelo hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. They walked into the store together, and David made sure Nelo got everything on her list and even added a few extras. Thank you so much, sir. You really didn't have to do all of this, Nelo said as they walked out of the store. David smiled. It's my pleasure. You helped me, so I wanted to return the favor. How are you getting home? I usually walk, but it's a bit far, Nelo admitted. David thought for a moment. How about I give you a lift home? It's the least I can do. Nelo was hesitant, remembering her mother's warnings about strangers. But David seemed so kind and genuine. All right, but my mom would want to meet you first. She's single and very nice. David laughed. Are you trying to play matchmaker, Nelo? Nelo giggled. Maybe just a little. David drove Nelo home, chatting with her about school and her interests. He found her to be a delightful and intelligent girl. When they arrived at Nelo's house, David said, I would like to meet your mother next time. She must be a wonderful person to have raised such a great daughter. Nelo blushed and smiled. She is. I will tell her about you. David handed her some money. This is for you. Buy yourself something nice. Thank you, sir, Nelo said, waving goodbye as he drove away. Nelo walked into the house, her arms full of groceries. Ngozi was in the kitchen, preparing for dinner. She turned and saw the extra bags Nelo was carrying. Nelo, how did you get all of this? I only gave you enough money for what we needed. Nelo set the bags down and began to explain. Mama, you won't believe it. When I got to the store, I saw a man who slipped and fell. I helped him up, and he was so grateful that he insisted on buying our groceries and giving me a lift home. He even gave me some extra money sef. Ngozi frowned. Worry etched on her face. Nelo, you know better than to trust strangers. You shouldn't have accepted his help or the ride home. But Mama, he was really nice. His name is Mr. David, and he seemed like a good person. Nelo tried to explain. Ngozi shook her head firmly. I don't want you to do this again. You can't trust everyone you meet, no matter how nice they seem. Promise me you won't do it again, Nelo. Nelo sighed. I promise, Mama, I won't do it again. Ngozi took the money from Nelo and put it away. She couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her heart. She knew she had to protect Nelo from the world, and part of that meant teaching her to be cautious. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Nelo couldn't stop thinking about David. There was something about him that felt familiar and comforting. She hoped that one day, her mother would meet him and see what a good person he was. Meanwhile, David drove home thinking about the kind girl he had met. He felt a strange connection to her, something he couldn't quite explain. He wondered about her mother and what kind of person she was to have raised such a wonderful daughter. As the days went by, Nelo kept her promise to her mother and didn't bring up David again. But in her heart, she hoped that their paths would cross again. She wanted her mother to be happy and believed that David could be the key to that happiness. Nelo and Ada remained close friends, supporting each other through thick and thin. Ada continued to be a source of strength and comfort for Nelo, always ready to lend a helping hand or a listening ear. One day, Ada and Nelo were walking home from school, chatting about their favorite books and laughing at silly jokes. As they turned a corner, They unexpectedly bumped into Mr. David, the kind man Nelo had met at the store some time ago. Nelo, it's so good to see you again, David exclaimed, smiling brightly. Nelo's face lit up with surprise and happiness. Mr. David, it's been a long time. How have you been? I have been well, thank you. How about you? How is your mother? David asked warmly. We are fine, thank you, sir, Nelo replied. David looked at the girls and said, would you like a ride home? It would be my pleasure. Before Nelo could respond, Ada chimed in. Yes, yes, Nelo, let's take the ride. It would be fun. But Nelo shook her head firmly. No, Ada, we can't. I'm sorry, Mr. David, but I can't accept your offer. David looked puzzled. Why not, Nelo? I just want to help. It's no trouble at all. Nelo sighed. I can't because I don't want to make my mom sad again. She told me not to trust strangers. David's face softened with understanding, but he continued to plead gently. I understand, Nelo, but I'm not a stranger anymore. I just want to help you and meet your mother. Please, let me drive you home. Despite his kind words, Nelo's resolve remained strong. She felt a rising frustration. Why are you so kind to me? Are you trying to kidnap me or something? David looked shocked and hurt. No, Nelo, I would never do such a thing. I'm not a bad person. I just wanted to help. Nelo's patience snapped. Stay away from us, she shouted, grabbing Ada's hand and walking away quickly. The scene attracted the attention of other students nearby, who started whispering and giggling at the spectacle. David stood there, feeling both bad and embarrassed as he watched the girls walk away. As they walked, Ada looked at Nelo with concern. Nelo, why did you do that? Mr. David seemed really nice. Why did you think he had bad intentions? Nelo's eyes were lifted with tears of frustration. I don't want to talk about it, Ada. My mom told me to be careful, and I think it's best if we stay away from him. Ada nodded, sensing her friend's distress. Okay, Nelo, I understand. Let's just go home. When they arrived home, Nelo told her mother about the encounter with David again. She recounted how he had insisted on giving them a ride and how she had refused. Ngozi listened carefully and nodded. Nelo, you did the right thing by refusing the ride. I'm proud of you for being cautious. From now on, I will wait for you after school so we can go home together. That way, the stranger won't bother you again. Nelo felt a sense of relief and agreed happily. Thank you, Mama. I think that's a good idea. That night, as Nelo lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. She replayed the scene with Mr. David over and over in her mind, feeling bad about how she had treated him. The embarrassment on his face and the way the other students had laughed haunted her thoughts. I shouldn't have been so harsh, she whispered to herself. He just wanted to help. Determined to make things right, Nelo promised herself that she would apologize to Mr. David the next time they met. She closed her eyes, hoping that she would have the chance to fix her mistakes soon, and slowly drifted off to sleep. The next day after school, Ngozi waited at the school gate for Nelo and Ada. She glanced at her watch, ensuring she was early enough to greet them. As she stood there, a car pulled over in front of the school gate. To her surprise, David stepped out of the car. Their eyes met and both of them froze in shock. David! Ngozi gasped, her heart pounding. Ngozi! David responded, equally stunned. They stared at each other, memories flooding their minds. Just then, Nelo and Ada walked out of the school gate and saw them. Hi, Mama. Hi, Mr. David. Nelo greeted cheerfully. Ngozi looked at her daughter, still trying to process the shock. Nelo, is this the stranger you have been talking about? Nelo nodded and turned to Mr. David. Mr. David, I'm really sorry for the way I spoke to you the last time. I didn't mean to be rude. David smiled gently. It's okay, Nelo. I understand. Nelo noticed the strange tension between her mother and Mr. David. Mama, Mr. David, why are you staring at each other like that? Have you met before? Ngozi's eyes filled with tears and she quickly grabbed Nelo's hand. Let's go home, Nelo. Ada, come along. Without another word, she turned and walked away, holding Nelo's hand tightly. Ada followed, leaving Mr. David standing there, frozen and speechless. When they got home, Ngozi rushed into her room and locked the door. She leaned against it, tears streaming down her face as memories of their love story filled her mind. She remembered the happy moments they shared and the pain of their separation. She knew it wasn't David's fault, but she couldn't tell if he had looked for her all these years. Outside the door, Nelo knocked gently. Mama, please open the door. You need to eat something, please, Mama. But Ngozi didn't respond. She couldn't face her daughter just yet. Nelo, worried and desperate, ran to Ada's house and brought Ada's mother. Ada's mother knocked on the door softly. Ngozi, it's me. Please open the door, let's talk. After a long time, Ngozi finally opened the door, looking drained and exhausted. Ada's mother and Nelo moved to her side, their faces full of concern. Ngozi, what happened? Ada's mother asked gently. Ngozi took a deep breath and sat down, her voice trembling. David is Nelo's father. Nelo's eyes widened in shock. What? Mr. David is my father? Ngozi nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes, Nelo. David and I were in love. We met when I was attending lessons and we became very close friends. Soon we fell in love. But when I got pregnant, I went to tell him and his mother threatened me. She told me to stay away and never come back. Ada's mother listened carefully and then suggested, Ngozi, you need to have a conversation with David. You deserve to know why he never looked for you. Nelo hugged her mother tightly. Mama, we need to know. Please talk to him. The next day, Mr. David showed up at their door. Ngozi hesitated for a moment but then let him in. They sat down in the living room, the air thick with tension and unspoken words. David looked at Ngozi, his eyes filled with sorrow. Ngozi, why did you leave and never return? I looked everywhere for you. Ngozi took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. When I found out I was pregnant, I went to your house to tell you, but your mother answered the door. She threatened me, David. She told me to stay away and never come back. I was so scared and I didn't know what to do, so I ran with our unborn child. David's face turned pale and he looked down, guilt washing over him. I had no idea, Ngozi. I didn't know she did that. I looked for you everywhere. I was heartbroken when I couldn't find you. I thought you had left me without a word. I felt so lost. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears again. And you never knew I was pregnant? David shook his head, his voice cracking. No, I didn't. If I had known, I would have never stopped looking for you. Is Nelo? Is she our daughter? Ngozi nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, David. Nelo is our daughter. David's eyes welled up with tears as he turned to Nelo. He embraced her tightly, his voice choked with emotion. I felt a connection with you the first day we met, Nelo. I never knew I had a daughter. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you all these years. Nelo hugged him, tears streaming down her face. It's okay, Papa. I'm just happy we found each other now. David turned back to Ngozi. After you left, I traveled abroad 2 years later for a project. I just returned a few months ago. I had no idea you were here, that I had a child. I'm so sorry, Ngozi. I promise to make amends and to be there for both of you. Ngozi wiped her tears, her voice softening. What about your mother, David? Where is she now? David's face grew solemn. She passed away 5 years ago. I'm so sorry for everything she put you through. I had no idea. Nilo looked at her mother and then at her father. I'm happy you are here, Papa. Thank you for coming back. Ngozi looked at David, her heart still heavy but filled with a glimmer of hope. I forgive you, David, but I need time to gather my thoughts. David nodded, understanding her need for space. Take all the time you need, Ngozi. I'll be here waiting. Nelo hugged her mother tightly, feeling a sense of completeness she had never felt before. She was grateful for this unexpected reunion and the promise of a future together as a family. David became a constant visitor at Ngozi and Nelo's home, always ready to help out and look after Nelo. His presence brought a new energy to their lives, and slowly the wounds of the past began to heal. David was determined to make up for the lost years, and his affection for Nelo was evident in every gesture. One afternoon, Ngozi was in the kitchen preparing dinner when David offered to help with the dishes. As they walked side by side, they began to talk. Thank you for helping, David, Ngozi said, smiling warmly at him. It's my pleasure, Ngozi. I enjoy spending time with you and Nelo, David replied, returning her smile. After a few moments of comfortable silence, David cleared his throat and said, Ngozi, I've been thinking, what if we relocate abroad? We could give Nelo a better education and more opportunities. Ngozi paused, surprised by the suggestion. She turned to look at David. That's a big step, David. We need to take things one step at a time. Nelo has her end of the year exams coming up, and she needs to finish those first. David nodded, understanding her cautious approach. You are right. I just want the best for her. Ngozi smiled gently. I know you do. Let's focus on the present for now and see how things go. David continued to visit frequently, showering Nelo with gifts and treats. He often took her out for fun activities and bought her a big phone, which Ngozi didn't approve of at first. Nelo, this phone is too much for you, oh, Ngozi said sternly when she saw the phone. But Mama, I promise I will use it wisely, Nelo pleaded. I will only use it for school and to keep in touch with Papa. Ngozi sighed, seeing the excitement in her daughter's eyes. All right, Nelo, but you must be responsible with it. I will, Mama, I promise. Thank you, Nelo exclaimed, hugging her mother tightly. As time went on, David's presence became a natural part of their daily lives. Ada was thrilled for Nelo and often joined them on their outings. One day, Nelo approached her mother with a hopeful look in her eyes. Mama, why don't you marry Papa so we can be one big family? Nelo asked earnestly. Ngozi's heart warmed at her daughter's innocence. We will see, my dear. These things take time. One evening, Ngozi and David were sitting in the living room, enjoying a quiet moment together. Ngozi decided it was time to ask a question that had been on her mind. David, why did you never marry? She asked softly. David looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. After you left, I couldn't imagine being with anyone else. It felt like love was a scam, something that wasn't meant for me. Ngozi nodded, understanding his feelings. I felt same way, David. I focused on raising Nelo and never thought about finding love again. David reached out and took her hand. I'm glad we are here now, together again. Maybe we can start over. Ngozi smiled, squeezing his hand gently. Maybe we can. They sat in silence for a moment, the warmth of their shared memories and new hopes surrounding them. Suddenly, they both leaned in and shared a tender kiss. At that moment, Nelo walked into the living room and saw them. Her eyes widened in surprise, and then a big smile spread across her face. Mama, Papa, you kissed. Ngozi and David pulled apart, laughing softly. Yes, we did, Nelo, David said, his eyes shining with happiness. Nelo ran to them and hugged them both tightly. I'm so happy. I love you both so much. We love you too, Nelo, Ngozi said, kissing her daughter's forehead. The three of them sat together, wrapped in the warmth of their love and the promise of a new beginning. As they continued to share their lives, they knew that they had been given a second chance to be a family, and they were determined to make the most of it. Their love blossomed again, and soon, Ngozi and David moved into David's big house. It was a beautiful home, filled with warmth and love. Ngozi felt at peace, knowing that the person who had caused her so much trouble, David's mother, was no longer there to interfere. For the first time in many years, she felt a sense of security and happiness. David, Ngozi and Nelu lived happily together, cherishing every moment they had shared. David's presence brought a new level of joy and comfort to their lives. He made sure that both Ngozi and Nelu felt loved and appreciated. They spent weekends exploring new places, having picnics, and enjoying each other's company. One bright and sunny day, David and Ngozi decided to take their relationship to the next level. They got married in a small intimate ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. It was a beautiful day, filled with love and happiness. Nelo was thrilled to see her parents so happy together, and she felt like her family was complete. After the wedding, they started processing their papers to move abroad. David wanted to give Nelo the best education and opportunities possible, and Ngozi agreed that it would be a great chance for their family to grow and thrive. One afternoon, Nelo was sitting with Ada in their favorite spot. Ada looked sad, and Nelo could tell that her best friend was struggling with the news of her departure. I'm going to miss you so much, Nelo, Ada said, her voice trembling. Nelo hugged her tightly. I will miss you too, Ada, but I promise we'll keep in touch, and you can always come and visit us whenever you want. Ada sniffled, trying to hold back her tears. It's not the same. We have always been together. Nelo smiled softly. I know, but we'll always be best friends, no matter where we are. We'll talk every day, and I will tell you all about my new school and the new friends I make. And when you visit, we'll have so much fun together. Ada nodded, wiping her tears. Okay, Nelo, I will hold you to that promise. As the days passed, Ngozi, David, and Nelo prepared for their big move. They went shopping together, buying new clothes and supplies for their new life abroad. They spent hours packing their luggage, making sure they had everything they needed. One evening, as Ngozi and Nelo were sitting on the couch, David walked in with a big smile on his face. How about we go get our hair done tomorrow? A fresh start deserves a fresh look. Nelo's eyes lit up. Yes! That sounds like fun, Papa. Ngozi laughed. Alright, let's do it. It's been a while since I have had a nice hair makeover. The next day, they all went to the salon. Ngozi chose a beautiful style that framed her face perfectly, while Nelo opted for something fun and trendy. David even got a trim, looking sharper than ever. They all felt refreshed and ready for their new adventure. The day of their departure arrived, and it was a mix of emotions for everyone. Ada and her family came to see them off. Ada couldn't stop crying, her heart heavy with the thought of her best friend leaving. I will miss you so much, Nelo. Ada sobbed, hugging her tightly. I will miss you too, Ada. Nelo whispered, tears streaming down her face. But remember, we will talk every day, and I will visit as often as I can. Ada's mother hugged Ngozi. Take care of yourself. We'll miss you. Ngozi nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. We'll miss you too. Thank you for everything. David shook hands with Ada's father. We'll keep in touch. Thank you for being such good friends to my family. Ada's father nodded. Safe travels, David. Take care of them. With heavy hearts, they bid Ada's family goodbye. As they drove to the airport, Nello felt a mixture of excitement and sadness. She was thrilled to be traveling abroad and starting a new chapter in her life. But she also felt a deep sadness at leaving her best friends behind. At the airport, they checked in their luggage and went through security. As they waited at the gate, Nello looked at her parents and felt a sense of comfort and security. They were together, and that was what mattered most. We are going to be okay, Nello, David said, squeezing her hand. This is a new beginning for all of us. Nello smiled, feeling a sense of hope and excitement. I know, Papa. I can't wait to see what's ahead. As they boarded the plane, Nello took one last look at her home, knowing that she was about to embark on a new adventure. She felt grateful for the love and support of her family and friends, and she promised herself that she would make the most of this new opportunity. Sitting in her seat between her parents, Nello felt a sense of peace. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, ready for whatever the future held. She knew that no matter where life took them, they would always be a family, and they would always have each other. As the plane took off, leaving the ground behind, Nello looked out the window and smiled. It was the beginning of a new journey, and she felt ready to face it with her family by her side. When they landed at the airport in the UK, a taxi was waiting for them. David had arranged everything in advance to make their transition as smooth as possible. The driver helped them with their luggage, and soon they were on their way to David's big house. As they drove through the bustling streets of London, Nello looked out the window in shock. Everything was so different from what she was used to in Nigeria. The tall buildings, the busy roads, and the people from all over the world fascinated her. After a while, the taxi pulled up in front of a large, beautiful house. It was even more impressive than Nello had imagined. The house was surrounded by a well-manicured garden, with flowers of every color blooming in the sunshine. Papa, is this your house? Nello asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Yes, Nello, this is our home now, David replied with a smile. Ngozi was equally stunned. David, it's so beautiful. I never imagined it would be like this. David helped them with their bags and led them inside. The interior was just as stunning as the outside. The house was spacious and elegantly decorated, with large windows that let in plenty of light. Welcome home, David said warmly. Make yourselves comfortable. This is your home now. They settled in comfortably, exploring every corner of their new home. David made sure they lacked nothing. The kitchen was stocked with all the essentials, and their bedrooms were furnished with everything they needed. A few days later, David took Nello to visit a nice school nearby. Nello was nervous but excited about the prospect of attending school in the UK. Papa, do you think I will make friends here? Nello asked, holding his father tightly. Of course you will, Nello. You are a wonderful person, and I'm sure everyone would love you, David reassured her. When they arrived at the school, they were greeted by the principal, who showed them around. The school was big and had many facilities that Nello had never seen before. This is where you will be studying, Nelo. The principal said kindly, "We are very happy to have you here." Nelo smiled, feeling a little more at ease. "Thank you. I'm excited to start." On her first day at school, Nelo met her new classmates. At first, she felt shy and out of place, but soon the other kids started talking to her and making her feel welcome. "Hi, I'm Kelly. What's your name?" A girl with curly hair asked. "I'm Nelo. Nice to meet you," Nelo replied with a smile. Kelly and her friends showed Nelo around the school and helped her find her way. By the end of the day, Nelo had made several new friends and was looking forward to coming back the next day. Meanwhile, David also helped Ngozi find a job. With his connections and support, she was able to secure a position at a local company. Ngozi was grateful for the opportunity to work and contribute to their new life. "Thank you so much, my love. I don't know what we would have done without you," Ngozi said, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You don't have to thank me, my love. We are a family, and families take care of each other," David replied. Lelo kept in touch with Ada as promised. They would video call each other and talked about their lives. "Ada, you have to come visit after high school. You will love it here," Nello said excitedly during one of their calls. "I will, Nello. I can't wait to see you and meet your new friends," Ada replied, smiling. As time passed, Ngozi and David's love for each other grew stronger. They were so happy to be reunited and to have their family together. One day, Ngozi had some news that would change their lives even more. "My love, I'm pregnant," Ngozi said, tears of joy in her eyes. David was overjoyed. "That's wonderful news, Ngozi. I'm so happy." When the baby was born, they named him Davis. He was a beautiful, healthy baby boy, and the entire family was thrilled. Nello was excited to have a baby brother and promised to help take care of him. "Welcome to the family, Davis," Nello whispered as she held him for the first time. "I'm going to be the best big sister ever." David and Ngozi showered both Nello and Davis with love. They made sure that Nello didn't feel left out and included her in everything they did for Davis. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, David looked at his family with pride. "We have come a long way, haven't we?" "Yes, we have," Ngozi agreed, holding Davis in her arms. "I'm so grateful for everything we have." Nello, sitting beside her parents, smiled brightly. "I love our family. I'm so happy." And so, their lives in the UK began to flourish. They embraced their new surroundings, made new friends, and built a life filled with love and happiness. Despite the distance from their old home, they kept the memories and the connections alive, knowing that they were truly blessed to have found each other again. Years flew by, and before they knew it, Nello was standing on the stage dressed in her graduation gown, beaming with pride. It was a momentous day, and David and Ngozi couldn't have been prouder. As Nello walked across the stage to receive her high school diploma, her family cheered loudly. Davis, now a lively young boy, waved enthusiastically from the audience. After the ceremony, the family gathered outside, where they took countless photos and celebrated Nello's achievement. The joy was palpable, but Nello couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness knowing that Ada wasn't there to share this special moment with her. A few days later, Nello received a surprise visit. As she walked into the house one afternoon, she heard a familiar voice. "Nello!" Turning around, Nello saw Ada standing there, grinning from ear to ear. They ran towards each other and hugged tightly, tears of joy streaming down their faces. "Ada, I can't believe you are here," Nello exclaimed, her voice full of happiness. "I wouldn't miss this for anything in the world." "Nello," Ada replied, her eyes shining with excitement. Ngozi and David walked over, smiling warmly. "Ada, it's so wonderful to see you again," Ngozi said, embracing her. "We have missed you." David nodded in agreement. "We are so glad you could come. We have been thinking, Would love for you to stay and study abroad. There are so many opportunities here. Ada's eyes widen in surprise and delight. Really? I would love that. But I need to ask my parents first. Ada's parents were back in Nigeria, but Ada quickly pulled out her phone and called them. Mama, Papa, Nelo's parents have invited me to stay and study here in the UK. What do you think? Her mother's voice crackled over the line. That's wonderful, Ada. We have always wanted the best for you. If this is what you want, then we'll support you. Her father added, We trust Nelo's family. Take this opportunity and make the most of it. We are so proud of you. Tears of joy filled Ada's eyes. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa. I promise to make you both proud. With everything arranged, Ada decided to stay and pursue her studies in the UK. Nelo and Ada enrolled at the same university in London, where they plan to study together and support each other through the next phase of their lives. As the years passed, Nelo and Ada thrived at university. They worked hard, made new friends, and enjoyed their time studying in a vibrant and diverse city. They often reminisced about their childhood and how far they had come since those days in Nigeria. I'm so glad we are here together, Ada, Nelo said one evening as they studied in their dorm room. I can't imagine doing this without you. Me too, Nelo. It feels like a dream come true, Ada replied with a smile. Throughout their university years, David and Ngozi continued to support their children. They visited Nelo and Ada often, bringing home cooked meals and spending quality time together. Davis, now in school, was thriving in his studies and making his parents proud with his achievements. After years of hard work and dedication, Nelo and Ada graduated from university with flying colors. Their families were there to celebrate their success, cheering them on as they received their degrees. We did it, Ada, Nelo exclaimed, hugging her friend tightly. Yes, we did. I'm so proud of us, Ada replied, tears of joy in her eyes. David and Ngozi watched with pride as their children stepped into the next chapter of their lives. Nelo had secured a job at a prestigious tech company, and Ada was on her way to becoming a nurse. Congratulations, Nelo, David said, hugging his daughter. You have worked so hard for this. And you too, Ada. We are so proud of you, Ngozi added, embracing her warmly. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa. Thank you for everything, Nelo said, her heart full of gratitude. Ada's parents were equally proud. You have made us so happy, Ada, her mother said over a video call. We are so grateful to David and Ngozi for making this possible. With their careers starting, Nelo and Ada moved into their new apartment in London. They decorated it together, creating a cozy and welcoming space where they could unwind after a long day at work. This place is perfect, Ada said, looking around their new home. It really is. I'm so excited for this next chapter, Nelo replied, smiling. David and Ngozi continued to thrive as well. David's projects were successful, and Ngozi enjoyed her job, making new friends and becoming an integral part of their community. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Nelo looked around the table, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and happiness. I love our family, she said, smiling at everyone. We have come so far, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. David raised his glass to our family and to all the wonderful adventures ahead. We are so proud of all of you. Cheers! They all exclaimed, clinking their glasses together. Years went by, and the family's bond only grew stronger. Davis, inspired by his older sister Ada, worked hard in school and pursued his passions with the same determination. Nelo continued to excel at her tech company, bringing innovative ideas and making significant contributions. Ada, now a dedicated nurse, cared for her patients with compassion and skill. One day, as Nelo and Ada walked through a park, reminiscing about their journey, Nelo said, I'm so glad we kept our promise to stay close. I can't imagine my life without you, Ada. Me neither, Nelo. We have been through so much together, and I know we will always be there for each other, Ada replied. And so, they continued to live happily, Their lives filled with love, laughter, and endless support from their family and friends. They knew that no matter where life took them, they would always have each other, and that was the greatest gift of all. This story teaches us that family and friends are very important. No matter where we go or what we do, having the love and support of our family and friends makes us strong and happy. It shows us that even when things are hard, we should never give up on each other. Being kind, helping each other, and staying close to those we love will always bring us joy and make our lives better. Thank you for watching this amazing story about Nelo and her family on African Stories. If you liked it and felt inspired with their journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.